Hey, how's it going, everybody? One of these days, I'll figure out how to unmute. All right. Welcome back to Sit Down and Shut Up. We're gonna be playing some games today. Today we got a Ken player because apparently all I have is Ken players. Just kidding. This is actually open to everybody, right? It's not just Ken players. It just so happens that people, since I play Ken, I think people, signed up and they play Ken too. So today we got Kid. Is gonna be playing with us. They are a yeah, I can play Jamie if you want. They are a Diamond 5 Ken, and they had mentioned. Oh, we're going to read it out here. They had mentioned, so they're currently D5. I think they're knocking on the door of Master, at least getting close, I think. Really, what they mentioned is they're struggling with meter management. They feel like they struggle with the design of some of Ken's buttons. Like, I'm assuming that means when to use it, when not to use it. And then defensive options in the corner, and then making decisions, making solid risk reward decisions. So I think that's pretty common for folks in Diamond. When they start getting closer to Master, they realize more and more that ranked becomes more of a grind of like being able to consistently win games to get up there. So okay, let's join the Discord here. I think Kid's in BC, so let's chat. Hey, Kid, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome.
How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'm glad we were able to get this in this week before the holiday, so
Yeah,
able
for
to
sure.
get
I'm
that.
going out to Colorado for the week,
Oh,
so
right on,
just
right on.
just in time.
Sweet. So I did read off what you had listed in the Discord. Obviously, I'm streaming this right now, so you'll have a you'll have it for later on when I upload to YouTube and all that stuff. But you had mentioned meter management, maybe being able to use certain buttons more effectively, and then like defensive options and like decision making in game. Right? Does that sound about
Yep,
right?
yep.
Cool, cool,
That
cool.
that sounds right.
Okay,
Yeah, I
cool.
feel like I'm at a point where I'm a little overly reliant on drive gauge, and I'm at the point where I'm like, I at least kind of stop when I'm about to get burnout, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's I don't know, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of meterless routes and things like that that I could be utilizing that I'm just not.
Okay. You feel like you burn out a lot? Oh, I searched for the word Ken. It should be kid, I think.
Um, I think I'm getting better at it, but I would say within the past few weeks, it's been a little bit of a challenge.
Okay.
Mostly, I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm not burning myself out,
Mm-hmm.
but I get so low that someone burns me out.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you're kind of riding that threshold of like, oh, I have 3 bars, I can do a quick drive rush here and extend my combo or whatever. But then you land the combo, it's an Oki situation, and then you go through the Oki situation, maybe you score the hit or whatever. But then now you have like a sliver of
Exactly.
drive left,
Block
and then
something and then it's gone.
it's gone. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the purpose of the stream, I'll just mention this. So what we'll do is I invited you a custom room. We'll run our first to three, and then I'll kind of get a sense of where you're at and the things you're talking about and struggling with. And then what we'll do is we'll do a little replay review, right? Maybe I'll pick a game or two, and we'll talk about some of the things, maybe the things you had mentioned you're struggling with, or it could be other things that maybe you didn't notice was happening. We'll talk about those major points, hopefully. We'll do a little lab work, I think, if needed, right? If there's like a situation or two that we kind of want to explore a little further, we can do that. And then afterwards, if you have time, we'll run another first to three, kind of get a sense of like if the things that I talk about may have made a difference or not, right? In the following set. So, is it
Cool.
reasonable?
Sounds good.
All right, cool. So I'll go ahead and queue up any slot here. I'll join in. What I'm going to say is that I may not rematch right away as I kind of take notes and write things down. So if it's taking a little bit for the game to go through, don't worry. It's just me writing stuff down. I'm also
Sounds
going to
good.
deafen in Discord so that you can't hear me and I won't be able to necessarily hear what you're saying or anything like that, so I don't influence anything you're doing. 'Cause I tend to talk a lot while while I'm doing these. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, I'll check in with you after the set. So good luck.
All right. Thank you.
All right, so Kid, I've seen a couple of times. They've been in some of the newbie fight club lobby nights, and I've played them in some of the, and I've seen them in the Fight Rise OFS stuff. Obviously not in the master pool, but they will be soon, I think. So let's see where they're at. Ooh, wake up DI might have been supposed to be a jar reversal, probably. Oh no, I dropped it. All right, let's see the punish count. Oh, burns out for that. That's kind of tough. Let's see what they. Okay. Walk up, throw again. Okay. Throw again. Oh, they actually beat me. That was sick. Okay. So I think they're trying to not take too many risks on offense there. They were obviously one interaction from losing there, so didn't take too many risks. Oh, that's a tough punish. Oh, I missed my super. So neutral jump in the corner there, I think, is a little bit tough. You gotta be kind of... What do I want to say here? I think you can't neutral jump in the corner because like it leaves you in the same position. And if I don't throw there, right, I land the anti-air, right? Whereas if you jump forward in that situation, maybe I don't land the crosscut, or maybe you do get crosscut, whatever, but at least you're out of the corner. But if you get anti-air in the corner there, you're in the same position twice, right? There's the... Okay, a lot of delay techs, I think. I'm going to burn out for this. Oh. A lot of delay tech. Oh, I'm dead, right? Very close, I think. Alright, so we're going to jump here and let's see how he does. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's pretty good, actually. I don't see any real... The only real issues there, I think, were around some of the burnout situations that they put themselves into. So, it's pretty good. Oh, man. It's the same way I lost last time, right? Okay, having some problems anti-airing. Oh, man. Ah! Okay. So... I think that where they're struggling right now, and they mentioned it, I think, is some of the defensive decisions, right? When they're in the corner, they're just taking and holding pressure instead of making some sort of defensive decision, right? So we'll see how much that impacts the rest of the set, because they've clearly shown that they may be blocking a little too much, and some of the challenges are not necessarily in the right spot, right? Or what do I want to say? Like the risk of the challenge, right? Oh, okay. All right, cool. They've adapted to my shimmy. That's good. So now we're just going to walk up and button now. Alright. Nice TP. Level 1. Nope. Okay. A couple of whiff buttons there, like whiff lights. I don't know how mad I can be about that potentially if their spacing's a little off, but ooh, run start overhead's a little tough. Okay. I think they're using crouching media kick more now, so we can just apply media pressure. Oh, that's nice. Oh. Hey, walk up the row. That's good. STP. Uh-oh. Oh, she was super there, huh? Okay, I think that time they caught walking back a little bit. Part of that, I think, is because they were in burnout, so they were trying to be a little bit less aggressive, I guess. But we'll see if they make an adjustment there. They've already made an adjustment to the shimmy pressure that I was applying with a crouching medium kick, so we'll see how they do in neutral. I like their spacing. We good so far? Oh, well. Commentator's curse, I guess. A delay jab beats their crouching medium kick. Alright, so that was an adjustment to their crouching medium kick. They're not doing it right away. They're actually waiting a little bit. So if I delay my jab, you saw what happened there, right? If I delay my jab, I can get counter hit. Again, their spacing is good. In neutral. Oh, that's tough. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be a D-rev, right? We'll ask him after. Oh. Went for a backdash. Okay. So, yeah, alright. That was actually pretty good. So let's bring them back on. Alright, kid, how was that? What do you think?
That was good. I have been recently incorporating drive reversal. And I still mess up
Yeah, a
and
couple
wake
yeah.
up driving back.
Yeah, I mentioned that on stream. I was like, oh, I think they meant to do a D-rev there. So a little trick for you guys in chat. Turn the slide on so you can see my face. You can just hold down the DI button or the heavy punch, heavy kick. You can just hold it down and hold forward on wake up. So if you don't want to back tech, you just wait until your character's actually getting up. And if you hold it down, you'll wake up D-rev immediately, like immediate wake up. Like DI won't come out there. You don't have to time it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So something to do. A lot easier, I think, if you do that versus trying to time that, because you'll get a DI sometimes, right, if you miss it. And that's really punishing when that happens, right? Especially against, someone applying media pressure with cancelable buttons, right? So let's pick up a couple of replays here. I think I want to look at the one you won, and then maybe the second or third game we played. Okay. Let's take a look at that. So I think this is the first one. So we'll add this replay. That's the one you won, and then we'll add this. I think this one's probably the one we want to look at. All right. So 14, 13, and 14, 16. Okay. So let's take a look at the replay here. I pointed out some things while we were playing, like on the VOD. So when you watch it later, you'll see what I was kind of talking about. But we'll go through it here. That way I'll have something concrete to talk about as we go through this. So
sounds good.
All right, so I think this is the first game we played, right? So first off, I want to say I like your spacing. I like the space you play at, right? You're kind of playing right outside of that crouching medium kick range for Ken, right? So that's good. That's what you kind of want to be at. But as you climb up, something you want to keep in mind, or at least something you want to observe. Obviously, the round just started, right? So obviously, I'm not expecting I wouldn't be expecting too much, and nor should you of me, really. But you kind of want to get a sense of when your opponent likes to press the button, right? We saw it right here that I walked up and crouch medium kicked you here, right? Or I tried to anyway. And it was just out of your range. You know, I'm not, because you had stopped walking forward, I guess, right? So it whiffs, right? So you had a whiff punish opportunity there. You know, it's tough. You got to kind of be ready for it. It's kind of part prediction, all that, but something to watch out for as we go through the set to see how many times we whiff buttons at each other, right? But I just wanted to point out this spacing is pretty good, right? This is about where you want to play, I think, you know, especially in the Ken Mirror, but in general, because you're trying to make sure that you can press the right button when they're in front of you, right? So pretty good. So let's keep it going here. Okay, good pokes. Just kind of poking at each other, see what happens there. All right, so right here is the first hit, right? So if you take a look at what happened, what looks like you're moving forward a little bit. So you move forward into the crouch medium kick range, and then as you're trying to back up, well, actually you move forward, right? You blocked after you got hit, which it's totally normal, right? I'm like, oh crap, I'm getting hit when we start blocking. But that's kind of the neutral game, if you will, is that I'm kind of trying to read when you're going to want to walk forward and then press the button during there. And if you look at what had happened here, right? I land a hit, it's blocked, right? But I land it, I whiff that, land that, you land that, right? No, not a lot of whiffs, right? So that, to me, typically I'm thinking, okay, this person wants to move into the range before they press, right? Because you had pressed like 3 buttons there versus my like 6 or whatever it was, right? So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait for them to kind of move forward, and then I'm going to press and see if they walk into it, right? If they're not walking and blocking. So I'm only bringing this up because it's kind of interesting to see here, because you're on the cusp of Master too, like you're pretty close, right? You're going to start, once you get into Master, you end up in 1500, and a lot of folks in 1500 can play that game pretty well, right? Like this neutral game, right? So it's just something to keep in mind as we go through the sets. I'm not going to talk too much more about neutral at this point because it may not come up as much, but I wanted to bring that up as something looking forward, which you wanted to, when you elevate your game, this would probably be the next thing to look at, right? So anyway, take the hit here. All right. So I think this was supposed to be a wake up D-Rev, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So yeah, just hold forward. Yeah, hold forward, and the DI macro that you have, or heavy punch, heavy kick, or whatever it is on your controller pad, whatever it is, and that will make sure that it comes out correctly.
Okay.
So unfortunate DI here. I think I dropped the DP too. Oh, nope, okay, I get it. All right, take some throws. Good time to press, right? So let's take a look at this situation here. Right, you clearly want to get out of the corner, and you're trying to, we're both, you know, I'm trying to lock you in the corner, you're trying to get out, right? And this is one of these things where we start thinking about the defensive decision making, right? Your health is kind of low, right? You're like 1 interaction away, right? I can cash out, maybe I can definitely use level 1, it'll kill you, right? So you're really trying to get out of here. And then what ends up happening is I'm standing right outside of crouching medium kick range, I think, right? This is probably going to whiff if you try to crouch medium kick me here, right? So I'm kind of dancing in and out of that range, and then you press crouching medium kick at some point right there, right? So I whiff a button, it recovers in time, right? You can see, like, I pressed it, and then you reacted a little bit late, because you could have whiff punished me there, right? I guess if you were on top of it, but no big deal. You press the crouching medium kick here, then you go into drive rush, right? So I think that this is a really aggressive option, to try to get out if you're not able to make the read on my movement. Then you drive rush, right? So if you look at what's happening here now, right, you get the mix up, right? You get the plus frames and all that. But here now you're kind of in trouble, right? Now, obviously you win the round and all of that later, and we'll talk about that. But in this particular situation right here, right, you're now, you know, you're plus here. You have an opportunity to mix me up because it's blocked, right? Like you're +2 or whatever it is off of the standing medium punch. But this right here is going to make it difficult to come back. Like, let's say you hit that, right? And, you know, it's a start to get through or whatever. But on block, you know, if you look at this now, you know, unless I make a mistake, right, which could happen. I forgot. I already forgot how the sequencing went. But the meter situation and life situation make it really difficult to come back from here, right? Obviously, you've taken some hits, and of course, that's why your health is where it is. But I think this is kind of an aggressive option to try to get out at this stage in the game, right? I think you want to try to minimize your risk a little bit, right? I don't hate the decision though. I mean, I call it aggressive because it is. But you had meter to burn, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you were
Yeah.
talking about meter management and all that, and I think you had meter to burn. So I don't think it's necessarily a wrong decision. It's just that it's super aggressive, right?
Okay.
So you take the
Yeah.
plus frames and you back off, right? So kind of not do too much with it, right? So you're plus, right? There's the 2 frames. You're a little bit out of range for a throw, obviously, like if you want to throw here, right? So, and I know that, so I'm not going to tech or anything. I only teched your initial drive rush here, right? I delay teched on your button.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of just walk backward, right? Like I don't do anything with that, right? So you had an opportunity, I think, to press more buttons here, right? Your plus. You could have went for like a low or something, potentially, right? Your +2. So it would have, you could have pressed like another stand medium punch. It would have stuffed like a light button from me if I had decided
Yeah,
to
that
press it.
frame trap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. But unfortunately, what ends up happening instead is you back off, and I whiff my crouching medium kick. You're not ready to punish it. That's okay. But that means that you spent 3 bars to gain 2 characters worth of space back, right? So if you look here,
Yeah.
right? See what I mean? Like the actual, well, nothing bad. Well, you didn't die from it, right? Obviously, but the amount that you spent to gain this space back is kind of a lot, right? Like you
Yeah.
could have just as easily walked forward and probably gained about the same amount of space. Is that you know what I mean? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you started walking forward a little bit, like me as the other Ken, like the opponent's response may be to give you a little bit more space so that you can start pressing buttons or feel comfortable doing it, so I can try to whiff punish, right? Or I
Mm-hmm.
push the button in your face, right, and try to stuff it. But either of those things, when either things happen, they're lower risk and they definitely cost less than 3 bars to do, right? So when we're
Yeah.
talking about meter management, like a lot of it has to do with what the reward is for the spending, right? Or what
Mm-hmm.
the gain ends up being because you spent, right? So in this
Sure.
case, that part's kind of tough, right? You're now you can't drive rush anymore, right? Not without burning out anyway. You're still 1 interaction away, and the stage position hasn't really changed either for you, right? Like now, if you had spent those 3 bars and now you're on the other side and I'm cornered, I think that's a win, right? I think that's good. Or if you manage to do it without spending, it's even better, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, what ends up happening here is I think you jump over me at some point. I don't cross cut, right? And then now I'm cornered, right? So that was good recognition on your part to jump over me there in that situation. So that's good. I just think that thing you just did, the jump over part, you could have done that instead of the drive rush. And then think of the situation now. You have this much health, but you have like 6 bars, 5 bars, right? Probably more, right? More than
Mm-hmm.
5 bars, right? So again, it would have given you a little bit more of a fighting chance here. I mean, obviously we know what happens and I lose the round, but it would have given you a better chance to win here because you have more resources to spend to try to kill me, right? Because you still got to
Mm-hmm.
win like 3 or 4 interactions here, right? Because Ken doesn't do that. I mean, Ken in the corner does good damage, but you still have to land the interact. You still have to win the interaction, right? So
For sure.
I dropped the conversion, and I think that's what kills me. Okay, here, cool. So let's take a look at this. All right, so punish counter here off the DP, right? I given the meter situation, all that, I think you take the 3,000 damage off of this interaction, right? You don't need to
Mm-hmm.
spend any drive here. I think you just take the 3,000 that you would get, right? Crouching heavy punch, run stop, crouching medium punch, light tatsu, medium DP, or even just target combo into, because you do a run stop here, right? So you
Yeah.
can do target combo DP, crouch medium punch, run DP, or something like that. You can do some combo that will give you like 3,000 damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead you extend, right, which burns you out, right?
Yeah.
And then you get like 300 more damage out of this, right?
Yeah. That's
So,
not
so
a
that
great
that's
reward.
yeah. So that's what I'm talking about, right? Is that was it a bad decision to extend? No. If it kills me, it's a good decision. But you have to remember what you're extending for here, right? Because if you wanted to deal the most damage meterless, you could have dealt it, right, with
Mm-hmm.
a shorter combo, and you still could have cornered me, right? Like if we take a look at, right? Ooh, I think I'm a little bit early here. All right, so if we take a look at the meterless conversion, Oh, I'm controlling the wrong person. Ah, your player
Yeah, it's
one.
always so confusing.
I know, right?
Like, I want the person on the right side of the screen right now.
I know, right? Oh, sorry. Right. So it's 3130 versus
Wow, yeah.
3300, right? That's max damage. But instead, if we
Hmm.
do what the other combo, oh, not that, sorry. Right, 2900, so 400 less damage, and more or less the same situation.
Hmm.
Right, so that's what we're talking about when we talk about the convert, like the meter management there. If you had more meter to spend, then maybe it makes sense to do it, right? Like if you had some meter to burn, or you're trying to, control how many interactions you have to win here. I think that makes sense. Burning
Hmm.
out for it's a little tough, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
something to keep in mind whenever you land a punish counter, right, or you see a punish counter coming, like I whiff the DP, you have like a year to decide. Oh, I'm going to punish Juzzy for that missed DP. Take a look at
Hmm.
your meter, right? Look here, look here, right? Ideally, you have a sense of how much health I have left, but it's kind of tough. But if you see brown here, right, consider not spending meter, right? Consider just taking the meterless damage, not not burning out for it, obviously, unless it's going to kill, right? If it's going to kill, obviously cash out, right? I'll say that. But
Yeah.
if you see brown here, like you glance up, you see brown in your meter, you're like, okay, maybe I won't extend, or I won't do an OD move, right?
Hmm.
you know and think about like your position as well here, right? Like maybe, if you look at this, you're like, oh, okay, I have this and this, can I kill? Probably not. Should I extend? Probably not, right? Like that's really what it comes down to. Because
Yeah.
here in this situation, right, you have me cornered, right? You have an Oki situation here, right? The run DP, or the run DP here is going to be plus 25 or whatever, so you have an Oki set up here, right?
Hmm.
And you have meter to use now. So if you win another Oki situation, then you could potentially cash out, right? Or consider again looking at your meter. Oh, I have one OD or one extension here. I'll have level 2 probably when I land that hit. Can I knock this health down or not, right?
Hmm.
So that's really like, and that and I know I say that like it's like you have a year to make that decision, but that happened in all of like 20 frames, right? Like you had a
Right.
second to make that decision, right? So it's something that just has to, it becomes automatic. The same way it became automatic for you to use meter there, right? Because most of the time you probably do, right? Like, oh, I have a huge punish opportunity, let me take it, right?
Yeah.
So again, consider the damage portion really only relevant if it's gonna kill, right? Like spending three
Yeah.
bars for extra damage is not always great, especially for Ken. And something that I think people don't talk about is that Ken's extensions, like his OD extensions and stuff, don't do all that much damage. Like they
Yeah,
don't do
for sure.
significantly more than like, like a Marissa spending or cashing out, or like a Ryu doing like an OD donkey kick or something. The expenditure is not really worth it in most cases, right? For damage anyway. Now, when it comes to like corner
Yeah.
carry and utility, obviously Ken gets a lot of that, and that's why that's where he's balanced out to be, right? And that's where he kind of wants to be.
Yeah.
But that's something to consider, right? Because when you cashed out there, right? Look like where the meter, like where my health is here, right? This is still three-ish interactions that you have to win to beat me, right? Like
For sure.
here, right? And if you look at, oh shit, god damn it, I knew that would happen to me at some point, so we'll fix that in the VOD when we get there. But yeah, hold on. I knew that was gonna happen to me at some point when I my bad. But if we look at where that was, and we look at what we're gonna see here, right, is that it's the exact same situation except you're burned out, right? So
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like uh the the way that I'm learning a lot of meterless routes right now is just simply being in burnout.
being burned out,
I'm like, okay, I'm in burnout. I got this okie, like I got some meaty in these frames. What do I do here?
right? Yeah, so if we look at the damage, I think it was like here, right? And we have the numbers, right? It was 31 something, or 2900 to 33 40 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny that burnout forces you to learn that, because then you're like, oh, my cancel's not going to work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, good setup here. Okay, so this is actually pretty good pressure on your part. I was kind of being passive, really, and you were kind of taking advantage of that, of me being passive in this situation, and it worked out, right? So it worked out, and you're able to win, right? But if you look at that sequence that you just did here, you had to guess right about 6 times, right?
For
Like,
sure.
I could have, if I had ODDP'd in any of those interactions, you would have died, right? Except for the one
Yeah.
where you back up a little bit, right? I mean, obviously, you're backing up. But that's, and it was, again, a credit to you for being able to mix that up enough where I couldn't really do anything, and get through that. But if you think about in the long term, like over the course of like a longer set or something like that, it's hard to guess that right all the time, right?
For sure.
Especially
For
when your
sure.
guesses are only giving you 1200 damage, right, for the throws, right? Like I was taking every throw, right? I was blocking anytime you try to hit something. I didn't always get hit, but then I took every throw, right? So you had to guess correctly that many times. So again, I think overall that did work out for you, though. You were able to win the round, and that's great. And I think like having the moxie to stay aggressive in that situation, to be able to, keep the pressure up, was really good, right? So
All right.
okay, let's take a look at that. All right, what happened here, right? So the Jinrai loop spaces me out. I back up a little bit, and the crouching medium kick whiffs, right?
Yeah.
So this is tough, right? Because I think for Ken specifically, this is gonna whiff. That's just how his crouching medium kick is against the medium Jinrai low that's spaced out, right? So this is just a spacing thing, I think. The hard part here is, again, it's kind of the same situation we looked at the last game, where you're gonna go down to 1.5 bars if this hits, right? So instead, you take the punish counter and lose a bit of meter, and take full damage here, right? And then the delay tech happens here.
Yeah.
I drop my super, and there's your D-rev, right? So take a tick throw. Okay, so I'll talk about this here. In the corner, when you're trying to decide if you're going to take the throw or not, if you're going to jump forward, right? Jump over me, right? The reason is because if you neutral jump and I don't throw, right, I could anti-air you, right? I'll be ready to anti-air you. And that's what happened, right? You got anti-aired by the crouching heavy punch, or you get DP'd or something like that by a player who's ready, right? And then what happens, right? You're in the same situation. Now you're still in the corner. You took damage, right? But you got anti-aired, and the same situation. It's still strike throw again, right? Whereas if you jumped forward there, right, maybe I cross-cut you, maybe I don't, right? Maybe I'm not ready, whatever. Or maybe I do cross-cut you, and you take the damage there, but now you're out of the corner, right? The positional situation has changed significantly when you jump forward, right? So something to consider when you're considering defensive options there, and you're like, oh, I want to beat the throw, right? Then consider jumping forward. Now, against like grapplers, right? So like a Geef or like a Manon or something like that, where a neutral jump is actually a pretty big reward if you're gonna beat, like, because you can't delay tech there, right? So if you're gonna try to beat a command throw, neutral jump may not be a bad option, because it may allow you to punish, right? Because a neutral jump, if you neutral jump a command throw, you're gonna be able to come down with a punish, right? They're gonna have like a billion frames of recovery, and you'll be able to hit them, right? It's not the same as a regular throw, where if they do it meaty and you jump, they'll be able to recover in time to anti-air, right? So that'd be one situation where I think neutral jumping is okay in the corner, because it guarantees the punish, right? If they're point blank and you forward jump, you may not be able to punish them anymore, right? So you made the correct read, not punish, And so I totally think that it's okay to neutral jump a command throw read against grapplers, right? So.
Okay. Cool.
Right. So we go through this, right? Nice tick throw. Let's see. All right. Tag another dash up. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's what's happening to you is that a lot of times you're pressing a crouching medium kick when you expect me to back up,
Hmm.
and then you end up burning out for it. So here, right, like after this interaction, right, you take a hit, spaced out here, you go for a crouching medium kick, but look at your meter right here,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So autopiloting in the drive rush there, probably not the best idea. You
Yeah.
actually see what I do a lot is I go into medium Jinrai, right? Until the opponent shows me they can deal with it, I'll just cancel into that, right? And you actually saw me
Hmm.
do that at the beginning. I didn't use any meter right away. I just did a crouching medium kick, it tagged you, and I canceled into medium Jinrai here, right? So, but here what
Mm.
happens is it's on block, but your drive rush is already inputted, right? So now I have to deal with that mix up, right? And you're burned out. So you see me
Yep.
delay tech against that, and then I challenge the challenge your button after, right, on your plus frames. And the
Hmm.
reason I did that is because you had been walking forward for a throw the last, I think, time or two that you landed a drive rush jab on me, right? So
Hmm.
you can see it here, right? So delay tech here, right? You're still plus. It's too far for a throw. You walk forward, and you get hit, right? So I think that if you had been a little bit tighter on the walk up, if you had committed to that right away, maybe it stuffs it,
Yeah.
maybe not. Because if you walk forward for 1 frame, 2 frame, right, like a marker walk of some kind, and then go for throw, it may still whiff. But if you look at
Hmm.
the frame meter, like I'm tight on the jab, right? It's right on
For
my
sure.
right when I'm able to act, right? And the
Uh-huh.
active frame is here, right? So this is 4 frames in. So you may not have been able to beat that even if you were really tight and walked up for throw, right?
Yeah.
But what I did notice is that you did this walk up throw on plus frames like twice, right? So I know convention says you're not supposed to press on plus frames necessarily, but I'm doing this because I'm calling out a specific thing you're doing, right? So that's what that is, and that's why that works, right? So
Okay.
something to think about when you drive rush in, right, on offense, because
Hmm.
you were asking me about like some of the button stuff and what the design is and all that, and we'll talk about more of that once we kind of see more situations. But something to think about when you're varying offense, right? So anyway,
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like how you can keep track of all of that stuff, right? Like there are certain things I feel like there are kind of big patterns
mm-hmm,
that I see, like that I try to take notes of
mm-hmm,
when I'm playing folks,
mm-hmm.
but these are like so tiny, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's something that is interesting at the master level too, is that all of these details start to matter a lot, right?
Mm,
And the reason for that is because the interactions become a lot tighter, right? And
mm,
when I say that, what I mean is that there's not a lot of openings or like big patterns to exploit from master level players, right? Like they
yeah.
generally don't take a lot of risk. They generally press fairly safe buttons. They don't always go for the home run, and they pay attention to these little situations where they can grind out advantage, right? So like I don't get
Mm,
a huge combo here, right? I get a jab. I think I get a jab, crouching medium kick, Jinrai, right? Oh, I actually
mm,
drop it. But anyway, I didn't get anything out of that actually. But that small interaction win for me over the course of like a set will start to add up, right? Because maybe you'll stop doing that particular move, you'll do something else, and then now when you drive rush jab, you're not utilizing your plus frames, and I can take advantage of that, right?
sure.
I think that's something that as you play more, you'll get used to, like the big patterns you'll see, and then the smaller patterns you'll see. I don't necessarily download everything, to be honest with you. I try to pay attention to stuff like what do they do after drive rush, what do they do when I walk into their range, right? Smaller things that you can kind of pick at, right? Because
Okay.
like a block drive rush into a button happens a billion times a set, right? Like everyone runs into this, everyone has like a pattern they do when their drive rush is blocked, right? Obviously, when it
Hmm.
hits, I turn my brain off and take the combo, right? I'm like, okay, well, get ready for the Oki situation because I'm getting hit, right? I can't do anything now. But
Yeah.
on block, kind of pay attention, right? So,
I basically almost always go into uh just medium punch again, try to frame trap,
Hmm.
or try to throw.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
sometimes it's tighter than others.
Yeah, yeah, it can be tough. Some buttons will space you out a little bit, and we can talk about in the lab too. Situations with Ken that we can work through for block to drive rush.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something that again you'll have to just get a sense of eventually, right? And as a defending player, I when I see what happens and I kind of have an idea of the frame advantage, right? There's only so many things that you could do that would blow up whatever defensive option I choose, right? Or I could call you out and be like, all right, I think he's gonna walk up throw and then hit a jab, right? Like your plus frames, your plus, and I hit a jab and it hits you, right? So,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay.
good DP. I burn out. I even said I'm gonna burn out for this, and I think this is where I actually end up losing the game, right? So I get back thrown, and then I think I get hit at some point. Yep. And then I try to jump out and get hit, right? So this is a good round for you, though, actually. I had burned out and made a mistake, and you were able to punish me for it. And then taking advantage of the lack of meter on my part with that drive rush, right? So again, the big thing is to kind of take away some of the meter management stuff in the corner, right? Paying attention to your existing meter before you commit to a drive rush, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, whenever you press the button, I kind of talk about this, right? Pressing with intention and all that. Whenever you decide to press, like, okay, I'm gonna go for crouch medium kick and drive rush here. Just make sure you glance at the meter before you decide to drive rush, right? Once you've already pressed the button
Yeah.
and you're gonna drive rush behind it, you've committed to that action, right? That's already a foregone conclusion. But the decision point to do that has to happen before you press the button, right? Obviously, because you can't hit confirm a single hit confirm 13 frame. At least you're not supposed to be able to single hit confirm a 13 frame cancel window with crouching medium kick, right? So,
Sure.
so yeah, that decision has to happen before. And then defensively, I think you did okay for the most part. There were a couple of delay techs that got called out, so just be careful when you are delay teching. I think that people delay tech a little too much in general, and you'll probably see this in this round here. But something to watch out for is defensive option rotation. We'll talk about that when a situation comes up for it. Okay, round start DI.
That was a mistake.
Okay,
I have my R16 and sometimes my
sure.
pinky just hits it and I'm
It's like
like,
resting on it.
no.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, if I had thrown a fireball, that would have worked. I think so. Anyway,
Sure, yeah.
okay. So wake up jab, not a bad, not terrible, I guess. Assuming that I'm +5 here, I think I missed my media. Actually, what happens here? Okay, so I missed I missed the Oki here. I'm supposed to be +5, but I think I just totally did not dash in time.
I I look at the lab when I try to do that double dash Oki. I don't do it because I feel like I mess it up and it's like so frame specific.
It's pretty tight. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty tight. So I was actually a little bit behind. So if you look, I'm actually minus here. That's why this ends up trading. So
Hmm.
if I had, or sorry, you end up -1 instead of -5. So that's on me
Okay.
not being tight with my Oki. But if I had pressed right away, this actually doesn't trade. I actually get a counter hit here, but no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we get the trade. Okay, so what happened there, right? Let's take a look. Okay, trade happens. We both crouch you medium punch. Okay, 0 here. And then what happens?
Probably crush medium
Yeah,
kick.
right? Which is fine. Don't get me wrong. This is okay. We're 0, right? We're at 0. The space is okay for a crouching medium kick, right? The issue was you pressed late, right? You can see that there's a 4-frame gap before, like a 4-frame gap here before you press, right? So that's kind of what ended up happening. Now, again, this is something specific to maybe Juzzy, me, the player, right? Because I tend to press in 0 situations. Like when we are both 0 frame advantage, I tend to press, right? And this space was appropriate for that. So if you had pressed on time, it would have been another trade, right? But you were a little bit late there on the press, right? So You know, not necessarily a huge deal overall. I mean, 4 frames obviously here. Maybe you were waiting for me to back up, or you wanted to see if I would do something. But again, the reason you got hit is because it's a little late. So take full combo. Okay, fake the setup. You don't bite. Good. Okay. Let's see. You delay tech, which is again not necessarily the worst thing in the world here, since I'm applying media pressure with jabs. But again, you kind of have to be careful about delay techs here, and I think you'll see it in this round.
Yeah, like one of the things I struggle with is just like when to hold, when to delay tech, when to delay jab,
Mm-hmm.
like all of those things, and it feels like I'm doing more guesswork
Mm-hmm.
than actually trying to notice patterns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's actually really tough. It's kind of tough to talk about too, because like defensive options, when you think about what they're intending to do with them, right, is you're trying to beat specific offensive options, right?
Hmm.
So if we take a look at what happened here, right, I do like a jab sequence here, right, and I'm just trying to see if you're going to. I'm trying to catch you pressing buttons, basically, right? Was what I'm trying to prevent here, right?
Uh-huh.
But when it comes to like defensive options, I think it's really hard to rotate them correctly and effectively, because it really just depends on what the opponent is showing you that they want to do on offense, right?
Hmm.
So if we take a step back and take a look at defensive options in general, right, and I take a look at, and I pick some of the more common ones, right? You have like blocking, right, the universal Oki, thing, the lowest risk and all that. You can just block, right? Meaty
Hmm.
is, you won't be able to, you won't lose to meaty, right? But you'll lose the throw, right? But you won't lose
Yep.
to any buttons, right? Like if I decided to meaty you, if I decide to delay button you, right, or anything like that, you won't lose to that. You'll just block, right? But you lose the throw.
Hmm.
The next thing would be like a delay tech, right? So you're trying to beat both strike and throw options, because maybe I am throwing you now from the block, right? But
Hmm.
then that ends up losing to shimmy, because even though it stops the meaty stuff, if I start going for throw there and notice you teching a lot, I could try to go for a shimmy, and now you have to. Now you're gonna take a full damage combo from trying to
Yep.
tech the throw, right? So now that I'm shimmying you, right, now you can consider doing something like a wake up button, right? Because you're calling out the
Hmm.
shimmy, and you do that here, right? You actually do this here, right? I'm trying to walk up for a throw potentially, right? Or like a button, but the point is that it looks like I'm trying to bait a throw, right? Of some kind. So you wake up with a button, you drive rush and get out, right? But
Hmm.
then now you start doing that, right? And then me as the offensive player will now rotate my option to beat whatever you're currently doing, right? So
Hmm.
it's tough, right? And then again, there's other options I didn't talk about, right? So if I'm meatying you and pressing a lot of buttons or going for a meaty throw and all that, you could do a reversal, right? And that will blow through both of those options, whether it be a D-Rev, ODDP, super, whatever invincible reversal you have, you could do that too to blow up the pressure, right?
Hmm.
Unfortunately, again, a lot of it does end up becoming kind of guesswork, right? You have to try to guess what the opponent is going to do on offense in order to beat it, right? Now, there are
Yeah.
certain things you can do, right? Like you can do buttons at certain timings to beat multiple options potentially. Like delay tech is a really good example of this, right? When you delay tech, you are beating a meaty strike and you're beating a meaty throw, right? So you're covering a couple of different options, right? When you do a delay tech, that's why it's so strong, at least at lower levels, because people aren't necessarily doing shimmies yet, right? They're not trying to beat your delay tech yet, right?
Hmm.
And that happens too with stuff like delayed jabs, right? Stuff like delayed buttons, that type of thing. Like you're trying to do something that will beat multiple options, right? Like a delayed jab, for example, will beat someone that is backing off, right? Like you may be able to jab them as they back up, potentially, right? It'll also
Hmm.
beat someone that's trying to do like a stagger pressure, like jab into a throw. So like I do two
Yeah.
jabs and walk up, and then if I do a delayed jab at the same timing as the delayed tech, it'll stuff their throw attempt probably. I get a counter hit and I'm out, right?
Hmm.
So what it kind of boils down to is understanding those defensive options that you have, right? Some of the ones I talked about, along with some more esoteric ones like forward jumping, right? Or if you're a character with like a dive kick or like Chun with instant air legs, right? You can do those things to get out of pressure potentially. Or stuff like backdashing, which is like, specific to like command grabs and meaty throws and that type of thing. So you do have options to consider. It's just that, like you said, unfortunately, some of it does become guesswork, right? You have to kind of make an educated guess on what the opponent's going to do, right? And how much risk
Yeah.
they're willing to take, right? Because like stuff like meaty throws and meaty jabs are pretty low risk overall, or they can go for like home run buttons, right? Like big buttons on your wake up to try to beat you out or something like that, right? It's unfortunately, as you climb up, you're just gonna have to. I hate to say this way, but you have to learn that aspect of the game by playing ranked, right?
Yep. Yep.
Playing longer sets with people, right? Seeing how people layer their offense and how they build all that stuff. That's where you end up learning it. So,
Okay.
but again, you got out of the corner here, right? So that's good. Right, corner me now. Apply pressure with a driver slow, right, and then walk up through, right. So if I tried the delay jab here and I missed it, right. You can look at my input. Oh, I delayed jab the first one, but not the second one, right? So if I delayed jab there, delayed tech there, it would have beaten your throw, right? So
Nice. Yeah.
good mix up on your side, right? Obviously, like it beats me here, but this is a situation where even me as a master player against you, I guessed wrong, right? I guessed incorrectly here, where I went for a delayed jab that would cover a walk up, but then I didn't do it on the second jab or the second opportunity to do it, and I get thrown.
Oh, dang it.
Yep. Right. So that's what I mean, right? Is that like it happens so fast, but you have to keep in mind what the opponent's trying to do here, right? Like I didn't recognize you were going to walk up throw necessarily in that situation, so I didn't do a second jab there. So, but you can see me mashing out the reversal, right? Right. This is classic Ken gameplay here. Right? Look at that. So the reason I chose reversal here, though, right, is that I hadn't done it to you yet all set. I don't think. Right. I don't think I've hit you with one reversal yet. So I'm choosing this defensive option because I think you're going to continue applying media pressure, right? And you can see that I've already committed. Something that people should do more is I've already committed to the defensive option, right? Like, look at this. Right? I'm still being thrown, and I'm already mashing DP. Right? I've decided that I'm going to mash DP, and whatever you end up doing here, if it's a strike or a throw, I'm going to blow it up. Right? So the big reason why this ends up working a lot, I think, overall, is because it doesn't allow time for the opponent to do something else. Right? What I mean by that is that, like, if I'd hesitated here, right, I get jabbed or thrown, right? Or maybe the jab comes out, my EXDP doesn't come out anymore, right? You jab me, you're -1, and you're able to block now, right? Now the DB comes out, right? So that's something that I think people need to do more. And I think you were doing okay with that overall, just committing to a defensive option, trying not to think too hard or react to something necessarily, right? You should already have decided what defensive option you're going to take, while you're getting knocked down, right? Again, there's some things to react to, like maybe if you started backing off instead, or doing something else potentially, I may not do the DP there. But in that situation of a throw, I've committed to the DP. I'm already assuming you're gonna apply more pressure. So
Makes sense. Yeah.
so here is interesting, right? We had talked about meter management and all that. So I DP. Now look at my meter here, right? I have a little bit of advantage over you, right? 3 bars to 1. So in this situation, this kind of makes sense in my mind to spend here for Oki, right? And the reason for that is because I just landed a DP here, and I want to continue the pressure that I have, kind of the momentum shift, if you will, that I put up, right? So take the plus frames, right, into a Jinrai loop, or a Jinrai, get 1 hit, and then burn you out, right? So again, looking at the meter situation here, I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to spend 1 bar to get in your face, continue pressure, and hopefully burn this out, right?
Wow. Like in that moment, that's like, boom, that was your.
Right after
your
the,
game
right, right here, right? This is happening right now, right? There's nothing either one of us can do for the next 20 frames or so, right? Like we're stuck,
Yeah.
both stuck in this animation. I look here. Okay, their life total is, I can't kill them next interaction, but I can, so that's okay. I see them at 1 bar, right? I have this much bar. I know how far they're going to be. And I know my Oki's setup here would be a drive rush heavy punch, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to try to apply pressure to their bar using a Jinrai cancel. If they block it out, they're going to be at like half a bar, in which point I can just press another button because I'll, because a lot of people don't end up pressing against it. Or maybe they reversal here, right? And they burn themselves out, and I still have the life lead, right? But all that decision making happens in the half second or so that this is happening in, right?
Sweet.
You take the half bar there, right? You take the hit, right? Here, which I think is tough, right? You're trying to back up out of pressure, but if that lands, it probably burns you out. And then that, right? So this is a situation that I think you can recognize on offense as well. Like when you see your opponent in that situation, you can try to go after him for that. Defending it is a little tougher, right? Because you're here. You spent the bar. Getting some of it back. But you have to decide it right here how you want to defend this, right? You could parry. Blocking is okay too. You take the drive hit, right? But this is really difficult to deal with, even at a high level, right? When you're applying pressure to someone's drive bar and they're in danger of burning out, this is what forces the oh shit interaction, right? The oh shit, I got to do something, and you end up making a mistake, right? Whether it be because you're blocking or anything like that. But what you could do is you can go for parry, right? Try to parry the button coming in. That could be an option. ODDP maybe doesn't make sense, right? Because of the bar. But you could super, right? If you're thinking you want a reversal here, you could potentially super, right? And what ends up happening, right? You land the super, because I'm going for button, right? You could super here to preserve your meter, right? You land a hit, you'll gain some of the meter back, and Ken's level 1 super will leave you on, will be spaced out back to neutral, right? I take some damage, and now you have a chance at getting back into the game, right? You have a chance of getting some of that meter back, playing a little more neutral, and hopefully being able to burn me out instead, right? So
That all makes a lot of sense. I
right.
feel like I'm at a point with letting like level ones rip where it's only when I'm in burnout, I'm in the corner, there's literally like no other option.
No other, yeah. It's like, I'm
And
gonna die when this DI hits me, right? I'm ready for a DI, I'm buffering, and when they DI, I'm gonna let it rip.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
even then, it's like only on wake up, and half the time, like my execution isn't right, and I just don't get it down. It
yeah,
doesn't come out or
doesn't come
something.
out right or something. Like
Yeah,
that. Yeah. I know. I feel
yeah,
you. It's tough, man. Like sometimes you're buffering and they don't do anything, right? They're just walking up and then like they're hitting you with buttons and stuff, and
yeah.
But yeah, something to think about too with like a defensive option here, a reversal could make sense, right? Drive rush, someone's driving a rush in with a button, you can react with a reversal. But just remember that you don't want to burn out, right? But if you have level 1 here, letting it rip here may not be the best. It may not be the worst idea, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah, a defensive option to start considering, right? Reversals at this level.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to do them every time, but you do want to do them sometimes, right? Represent that you're willing to do the reversal, right? Because right here, I wasn't afraid of you reversaling at all. I just like, hey, they haven't really reversaled. I think maybe once, maybe twice. So I'm just gonna go for it here, right? So
Okay.
okay, good DP. Ooh, tough sweep. What were you doing there? I think you were just backing up, probably. Oh, also, I'll bring this up here. Ken's sweep in Burnout, I think, is actually safe to most buttons, right? Because of the Burnout, I think it's -6 or something like that. Maybe minus. I don't remember exactly, but doing a sweep here, even if you block it, it would be very difficult for you to punish me here, right? So this is something
Okay,
that
that's good to know.
good to something that I wanted to bring up because I did this to you I think twice, right? I just did a sweep at a kind of longer range against you on Burnout, and it's not because I'm just being random with the sweeps. It's because this is safer to do against you in Burnout, right? And the reward for me is I get a knockdown and get some Oki, right? And then the alternative is you block it and nothing happens, right? So, like, if I'm too close, obviously it's
Sweet.
not going to work. But at a range like this, even if you block it, it can be difficult to do anything.
Yeah, that's something that like I'm not even making those calculations really of like the frame advantage of
Hmm.
burnout and like what that really gets you.
Hmm. Hmm. And it's
I need to.
yeah, it's something you probably need to get a little more. And you don't need to know every situation, every button, every frame.
Hmm.
But you do. It is worth trying to figure out what you can do against someone in burnout to take advantage of their burnout, right? Like you actually saw what I did there was I did a bunch of Jinrai kicks, right?
Hmm.
And because the medium Jinrai is now safe on blocking burnout, it means that I can kind of bully you a little bit, right? You'd have to level 1 to get out of that, and you have to guess when the level 1 is coming in order to
Hmm.
actually stop it, right? So something to, I don't know, lab out, take a look at least. Maybe steal something from some other player, right? What they do in burnout, like some other Ken player. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I pretty much only just Jinrai bully if someone's in burnout.
yeah, and that's correct, right? I think that's that's totally fine. So you take the overhead here, right? So run, start, overhead. Right, a little bit tighter there. So I missed the looks like I missed the frame perfect jab there, or whatever, or 2 frame window for the jab. Okay.
Hmm.
All right, good crouch medium kick here, right? I think you recognized that I was pressing a lot of buttons, so you went for a crouch medium kick, or at least you just went for it and it worked out. So this is good, right? So I'm trying to press something there. I think I'm trying to press my crouch medium kick probably, so get out.
I think for me it's more of a spacing thing. I'm just like taking a gamble like, okay, at that space, I think they're gonna walk forward or back. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
go for it.
Okay, and that's fine. I think that it's if you're able to recognize that and kind of discern a pattern from it, I think that's totally fine. Right? There's no reason why you couldn't do that. So
Hmm.
okay, what happened there? The overhead. I blocked the Jinrai. Ooh, what happened there?
I think I just pressed.
I guess
Nice
so.
job.
Must have been. Yeah. Nothing came out though. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, that's what happened. Mass jab and then it got beat. Okay.
Yeah. There's like certain situations I like I just need to do more lab work where I feel like I've landed some mashing jabs like as someone's dashing up
Mm-hmm.
or as they're doing drive rush. Like I don't recognize some situations as actually being Oki.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that I think that's just gonna take time.
Yeah. When you go for like a crouching jab, like a mass jab there, right? You have to kind of be ready for the follow up, assuming that it hits. Like you kind of have to assume it's gonna hit, right?
Hmm.
Because if you press like the crouching light punch there, and you're ready with a crouching medium punch to confirm, you get a drive rush there and you get a full combo, right? Or you can
Hmm.
cancel into Jinrai or DP or whatever else you want to do there, right? So just
Hmm.
being ready when you land those situations, like, and some of it's gonna be, it's just practice, I think. As you play more, something you can do is when you vary those defensive options and try things, you probably start noticing when you land more counter hits, right? Oh, this situation is the drive rush and they press the big button. Now they have to walk up. Oh, let me press here, and then you get the counter hit, and like, oh, okay, now I know that I can get a counter hit in that situation. So then you can start looking for it when you do it right. It's very similar to how I learned how to counter hit confirm the low Jinrai follow up into a stand light kick DP, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. So it's the same situation, right? Oh, I'm going for the low here, right? Either it's blocked, in which case I can't do anything. It hits, in which case I still can't do anything, or there's a counter hit, right? In which case I would be ready to confirm the stand light kick, right? Only one of those things requires me to be paying attention, right? The other two things can just kind of happen, right? And that's it. But if I'm
Yeah.
paying attention for the counter hit, because I know that it can potentially happen there, I can be ready with the confirm, right? And once you play like that, you'll find that the confirm windows are actually fairly generous, right? Like I could be a little bit late there and still be able to hit my stand my kick in the DP, right? So,
Mm.
all right, walk up throw, we both whiff. Unfortunately, I whiffed before you did, so my jab hits you, right? But I don't follow up here, right? So what I should have done here, right? We whiff the throws. It should have been a crouching medium kick into drive rush, right? But, you know. Okay, that time I'm not sure why I woke up swept. Did I just think you were walking forward? Let's see. Okay. So, I'm not sure if I recognized you actually pressing a button there. I might have just went for the sweep, given the meter situation. I guess it just worked out for me there. I can't lie to you. I'm not quite sure why I decided to wake up sweep there, but it worked, right? You whiffed the jab, unfortunately whiffed the jab, and then it worked. I think that if you press a bigger button there, you're able to make me block, or at least punish the startup, potentially. So, as you are dashing,
I don't know why I dash jab there.
yeah, right? So look at the
Maybe is it
spacing.
feint or something?
Could be. Um,
Or maybe I'm just autopiloting that Oki in the corner.
Maybe, right? The jab here is kind of maybe a stranger decision.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then I just go for a sweep and land it. So, trade. Good DP. Good jump. You should have cashed out here, I think. Like with the
Oh,
super.
wow.
Yeah. You could have beaten me there for sure. I think it's something that I mean, consider the alternative, right? You hit that DP. The Oki situation is still in your favor, but you have to win one more interaction, right? Like you can't take this into the next game, right? Like if you die here, that's it, right? So you should have cashed
Right.
out there, I think. Recognition of those situations, you probably get better at that, but you did mention that you kind of don't spend meter correctly. And some of that is not just overspending, but personally, I think some of it's underspending, right? Like this is a
Mm.
resource you should be using, right? Level 3 will kill me. Will have killed me there. If you had more meter, you could have done level 2 potentially, but spending level 3 there and sealing the round is infinitely better than losing it, right? I don't remember
Yeah.
if you win here. Let's see. But oh, you get tagged. So yeah, yeah. Like you can't play for round 3 if you die in round 2, right? If you're down 1. So just consider that,
True.
right? Because you win right here, right? Target combo, Dragon Lash, level 3.
Mm-hmm.
Even level 3 right here would have killed me. Probably, right? Because you have CA.
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
think I even tried to input it.
You went for the DP, right?
Yeah.
So consider that, right? Spending there, right? Having no, because you build meter really quickly in this game, right? Like honestly, you may get level 2, maybe you may get level 2 depending on how much you parry and stuff, but you'll definitely get level 1 in round 3, right? Potentially level 2, right? And that's already enough to make the difference in round 3, right? But again, you can't carry if you don't make it into round 3. It doesn't matter, right? So you just spend it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe later on down the road, if you're playing like these longer sets or whatever, and you try to think about, I want to maximize every ounce of damage I can get when you're playing at 1700 MR and every little bit matters, maybe you can consider being a little greedy here and not spending. But I think for us mere mortals in this situation right here, again, one interaction will kill you, right? Right there, right? One interaction will kill you. So
Mm-hmm.
spend it, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think of that scenario and like why didn't I recognize that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think like this is something I'm kind of trying to work on is like when are these little moments of pause so that I can look at the meter, look at drive gauge, look at my super gauge, take
Mm-hmm.
that information into account and like make an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there are like some nice opportunities, right? Like while you're in a DP, while you're in a cutscene animation or something, right? But
Hmm.
just finding those little moments, especially if things get scrambly, is something I'm definitely uh, having a hard time with.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a little bit eye opening, I think, when you hear a high level player talk about how often they're looking at meter. Because I look at the meter almost probably during every interaction, if not more frequently than that. Like we're playing neutral,
Wow.
walking back and forth, and I look at the meter. Like if my head's obviously not going to move like this, but if I was to exaggerate it, looking at the spacing, glance, 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 glance. Right? It's like StarCraft pros, right? That glance at the corner and they kind of have an idea what's happening. The information in this game is kind of nice in that they give you a lot of visual aids, especially with season two. They added like this flashing yellow. The super bars kind of have this nice blinking action going on, right? They have like
Mm-hmm.
the bar is kind of easy to see. Once you're less than half, it turns orange, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those things I think in your peripherals you'll start to notice as you make it as you're consciously doing it, it'll become subconscious, right?
Mm.
So yeah, as we move forward
Okay.
here, right? And then I think you get tagged as you're trying to back up, right? Unfortunately,
Yeah.
right? And then I cash out into everything, right? I was like, all right, I'm gonna spend it all if I don't, just in case to make sure, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. And then I guess I had the wrong replay, but it's I'll talk about it now. Is that there was a game where you started delay teching a lot, and you ate like 17 shimmies, right? So
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
gonna say, and we had talked about it like with the defensive option rotation, is that don't default to delay tech, right?
Mm.
Because it's a very in this game especially, it's a very I mean in previous games it has been too, like five it was, but now it's a very very risky proposition, right? A shimmy,
Mm.
like, and here I'll talk about risk reward a little bit since you had asked about it. A shimmy represent like if you take a shimmy as like a play that you can make, right? The worst case scenario is you die, right? You take 5,000 damage, 6,000 damage from a full cash out. Maybe you take 3,000 damage from a punish counter meterless or one drive bar extension. But the point is, you're going to take a ton of damage, right? 3,000 to 6,000 damage, potentially dying, right? For
Mm-hmm.
one delay tech, right? The alternative, what happens if you are correct, is that you break the throw, right? And okay, that's great. But if you don't tech, right? Worst case scenario, you block, you don't take any damage, or they throw you, which is 1,200 damage, right? So as you start thinking about defensive options and something to consider as you're going through that kind of exercise, and like, oh, what are my defensive options here? Maybe you'll see it in replay review if you take a look at it. But as you go through, like, what are my defensive options here? Like, think about what is worst case scenario, what is best case scenario, right? And the thing that I am choosing not to lose to, what were to happen if I did lose to it, right? And I'll take the delay tech, I'll take parry as an example, right? I've decided I'm gonna wake up parry because I think that the opponent is going for strikes, right? They're gonna try to meaty me here, or they've been constantly meeting me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Best case scenario, I land a perfect parry, right? Land perfect parry on their meaty. I'm able to side switch or whatever combo into advantageous stage position, right? Because typically a perfect parry scaling is gonna make damage a little bit tough, right? You normally want to just take positional advantage there. Back throw maybe, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Best case scenario. When you do the parry though, and you miss the perfect parry, but they go for the strike anyway, it's like you've blocked, right? It's the same deal, except now you're gaining some meter back, right? You block, 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 and or parry, 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 right? The three strikes or whatever it is, you reset back to neutral more or less, right? The downside is if you get thrown, right? You've decided that I'm going to lose to throw, you take a punish counter throw as 20%, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the upside is if you allow them to meet you, like you decide to mash instead, you may still take 3,000 damage, right? You may still take 6,000 damage if they land a counter hit confirm on you there, right? So as you kind of go through that, I think that's where you'll kind of figure out how frequently you want to choose these defensive options, right? Considering what you are like, how do I put this? The best way that I describe defensive options in Street Fighter 6 is I'm choosing what I'm going to lose to, right? I'm okay with getting thrown, right? So I'm just going to block, right? I'm okay with getting punish counter thrown because I really think they're going to strike and I don't think they're going to, go for a throw again, right? Like you're deciding that you're going to, lose a certain option because you can't cover everything, right? You can't cover every single option the opponent's going to do. But what you can try to do is minimize what you lose to by being like, okay, they haven't really walked up thrown me yet, right? They haven't really done any meaty throws. It's always been meaty strikes. So now maybe I can do the wake up parry because they haven't shown me that they're willing to take that throw, like, use the meaty throw yet, right? So, yeah, it's really hard to describe, I think, and I may not even be doing the best job at it, but really, again, defensive options in SF6, what it comes down to is understanding the risk reward and committing to it, right? So if you waffle a little bit and decide, oh, maybe I'll try to react to something, do something else, that's when you tend to get blown up, right? Because you're being passive, or maybe you make the wrong decision because they feint or do something else that you weren't expecting. Whereas if you just committed to the option, that's just what it is. You have to commit to the option and let the chips fall, right? Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but I think that's better than not doing anything and losing for it, right? Because you saw in that first run where you beat me, I did nothing, right? I did nothing for 7 interactions and lost, right? So,
Yeah.
right, and you're talking, that'll happen, right? If I don't do anything, so like, commit to it, right? If you waffle a little bit, it's probably not gonna work out for you, right? So,
Sure. Late frames or all
and
that
we saw that
stuff,
in a couple of situations, right? You were a little bit late on pressing, or it wasn't quite as tight. So what ends up happening is your decision may have been correct, right? Like sometimes those jabs were correct. It was just late and it gets beat, right? Because a lot of where I was beating you, I think, was in those kind of small little decision windows where if you're late or passive, I'm gonna win, right? And I think that's really where a lot of those came up. And then of course in Oki situation, delay tech, right? I'm able to maximize damage through the combos, right? That's the other half, right? So,
Sure.
Yep. Cool, man.
Cool.
So let's see, what else did you have listed here? Okay, so defensive option in the corner, we talked about that. Sweep design, okay. And what else did we talk about? Oh, what's the point of some of these other buttons? I mean, we'll talk about that real quick. So light Jinrai, I typically use that in the corner as a juggle, right? I think I don't usually use light Jinrai that often, generally speaking, in neutral, just because there are better options, right? So don't worry too much about light Jinrai overall. Some people use it to try to bait things. I'm not a huge fan of that because the frame advantage is a little tough. And some of the fireballs, you had mentioned that specifically, at least for Ken. The way he uses fireballs, in my opinion, is by clearing, I don't want to say clearing space, but like controlling space so that he can walk up, right? Throw a fireball, take up space, right? You can vary the timings and speeds to try to throw off the opponent's parry timing, right? So if you only throw heavy fireball, like only ever throw that, eventually opponents will pick up on it and start parrying that and perfect parrying that, right? And they'll be able to advance and gain some meter back, or at least they'll be meter neutral. Like by varying that timing a little bit, you can kind of burn some of their meter, right? Maybe they're off and they take a little bit more drive. It takes a little bit more time for the fireball to get there, so they'll drain a little bit more drive before they get some of it back, right? And because it's not a perfect parry, they lose. They're probably going to be a net negative overall, right? So that's kind of why you do it, I think. Additionally, for some of the slower fireballs, the recovery is better. So you can do fireball traps and that type of thing, which I don't know if I can talk about that here, but like you could potentially throw at a certain range, you would throw a heavy fireball, right? They block that. You would throw a light fireball, and since you recover sooner, if they would decide to jump, you can DP them on reaction, right? So even if they preempt the slow fireball by jumping, if you play it at the right range, you'll recover it in time to DP, right? So that's kind of what it is, right? So for you guys in chat, if you're interested in that, take a look for fireball traps, fireball spacing traps, that type of thing. That's pretty classic Street Fighter 2, right? Pretty classic Street Fighter in general is throwing fireballs at ranges where you can punish jump-ins, right? That happens in this game too. It's just not as apparent because you have all these great neutral tools to get around that, where you don't have to play that kind of Shoto fireball game if you don't want to. But that is classic like Street Fighter, right? Like throw a fireball, throw a second fireball, and then DP the jump in, right? That's like Street Fighter 2 in a nutshell, right? Okay, cool. So, it's kind of tough. I know that there was some stuff we talked about, but I think the meter management thing is the biggest one, right? Trying to be aware of when the meter is brown versus green. Maybe don't drive rush when it's brown, right? Don't use OD moves when it's brown. Consider using super instead for your reversal option if that is a relevant thing in that situation you're in. And then on defense, maybe defaulting to less risky options like block, right? until I'm showing you something that you can beat with a defensive option, like, you know, I'm doing a jab walk up, you know, then you can consider, okay, now I'm going to start using a different defensive option, right? Or if I'm throwing you a ton, then maybe delay tech makes sense, right? So consider those things.
Okay.
All right, cool. So you got time for another first three?
Sure.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, when you watch the VOD later, you'll see a wisdom from some of the great folks in the chat. So yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I got to get some feedback from the team or from the group on if me interacting with chat is useful for the player, because this is really for you, right? I mean, people are chatting in
Sure.
chat and they can talk, but I'll have to talk to them about that. But later on, when you watch it, or when you watch the VOD and you see chat, you know, take a look at that and see what they're talking about there. So, all right.
Will do.
All right. Ooh, that doesn't work, huh? Uh-oh. That's a tough situation. Yeah, we were talking about buttons earlier. Stand medium kick is a tough button to press. Try maybe don't use that
Yeah,
one in neutral as much, or in the corner at least.
for sure. I don't think I intended on
Yeah,
sending it.
yeah. Getting the second part of the tower combo is tough. Oh, nice.
No.
Oh no. I don't even know what happened there. It just like fell out of the tots. So we'll say your meter management's a lot better, right? You cash
Yeah, but I
it
feel
hasn't
like
been
I'm
cashed out
playing passive.
yet. Because you're thinking now, right? You're thinking, oh, what do I want to do defensively, right? So
Yeah. No.
oh, see the stand medium kick, right?
Yeah.
This is yeah, kind of hard, so you got to be careful when you're trying to poke with that. Ooh. Ooh. Nice. Ooh, very nice. Oh, that was tough. I actually don't know if this is gonna kill or not. I'm not gonna lie to you. Oh, it's gonna kill.
Nice.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. I think that was a lot better. I think the result may not have been what you wanted necessarily, or it resulting in a win for you, but the process that you started thinking about, right? Those two things we kind of covered was your meter management was a lot better, right? I know you were really holding back the drive rush on block and all of that, but if you think about the situations you were in this game, you had much better chance of beating me in a lot of those scenarios if one or two hits went your way, right? You had now that you have more resources to spend in those situations, you'd be able to capitalize better, right?
Okay.
Those high leverage situations where it's like, okay, well, I have to land one hit, and if I cash out and have enough resources, I could kill, right? There were a lot of situations in these three games where honestly, if you had called out something on Mayoki or landed a hit in neutral, you could have killed me, right? Like, and you had resources to spare, right? You had resources to use still, so that's a really good improvement, I think, for the game, right? You didn't have to make as like, if you weren't burned out, I don't think, right? At least not of your own doing, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe you burned
Yeah.
out because I was applying a lot of pressure or whatever, but it wasn't your own doing.
True.
The second thing,
True.
defensively, I think you were making less risky decisions overall, right? Like you were, choosing to block, right? Waiting for an opportunity to try to press a button as I gave you space, right? So, again, I know that the result seems like it was kind of lopsided, but I think in game, if you look at those replays and compare it to the first replays we played, you'll see that you were spending meter a lot more. I don't want to say recklessly necessarily, but you were spending a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
defensively, I think you're making slightly different decisions, which maybe is working out, right? I mean, obviously, like the way I run Ken's offense, right, is pretty layered and all of that. And you're going to be running into that soon because I guarantee you're going to be in Master before the end of the year, given the way you've been playing here. So we'll see you in the Master pool.
All right.
So any final thoughts, questions before you wrap up?
No, that was all super helpful. Thank
Cool,
you
man.
so
Cool. Yeah,
much.
yeah.
I appreciate your
Cool.
time.
Cool. Yeah. So the VOD will be up on YouTube. It'll be here on Twitch too. I just gotta send it out and all that. Shogbird, I'll hit you up in Discord, dude. I have some thoughts about that, and I'll put it in Discord so I don't muddle up too much of the VOD. But yeah, man. So this was a training session here. If you guys like this content or want to be in and really found it enjoyable, please consider joining FightRise. It's a Discord with a bunch of fighting game players like myself. We all play games and they run events like One Fight Stand, which is their round robin tournament. Although they're taking a break soon because the holidays coming up. They also do events showcasing the community with their Urge to Fight series, which I'll be on. Just letting you guys know. And yeah, if you want a training session like this, join the Discord, take a look at the training session or training requests channel in Fight Rise, and take a look for a thread. You'll be able to sign up there. 100% free. I won't charge anything for this ever. Try not to run any ads or anything on YouTube or on Twitch, right? This is all my love for the community I'm doing this for, right? So, but yeah, otherwise, thanks everyone for watching. I'll find someone to raid, and feel free to hang out until then or not, whatever, not a big deal. Kid, thanks again for coming on, man. I hope this is really helpful for you. I'll let you know when the VOD's up. And yeah, otherwise, have a happy holiday, everybody. Thanks.
Right. Thanks so much, Shazzy.